All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American Orthodoxy, Ep7. I'm your host, as always, Benjamin Michael. Thank you for joining me. I've got an awesome show for you today. I'm very excited about today. I got a lot to catch up on, obviously, over the weekend. I had to skip Saturday because I was traveling, and I had a very white-pilling trip back to San Diego, where I was originally received into the Orthodox Church. It's my home parish there in San Diego, and it was just an incredibly white-pilling experience. I didn't quite know the impact that my show was having on the ground level until going there and talking to a lot of the dear brothers and sisters who have been tuning into my show. So thank you guys all for your support. I even had a dear brother who I had some disagreements with, who said I've won him over on a few points. So glory to God for that, because you guys know how hard it is out here to try to communicate these ideas, in a Christian way, in an Orthodox way, and so glory to God for that. There was even like a mom and daughter that was telling my wife that they watched my show, they listened to it throughout the day, so it's pretty awesome. Even there was even a couple boomers who came up to me. I didn't even know them. And so, yeah, just I didn't quite know the impact that it was making. So just glory to God for that. I think a lot of people are really starving for this type of content. And so I'm glad that I can speak on these issues. I know they're controversial, but I'm excited to dive into today's topic. I got a lot to go over today. It was just an incredibly white-pilling weekend. And then I got a couple special things going on this week. So first of all, after this stream, I'm going to do my first members only stream. So I have 32 members now. So thank you to my 32 members. And I'm going to give you all a treat. I got some quotes that I think are a little bit too scandalizing to run on my main show. But I am going to show you guys one quote today. I'm going to do one each members only stream. I have a quote that I'm going to show you that I think most of you have not seen. That is from an Orthodox saint on the topic of race and nationalism. So if you're interested in that content, you can sign up for my members stream, which, like I said, I'm going to do right after this stream is over. In the meantime, please like and subscribe. Please, if you are not subscribed to my channel, subscribers are continuing to go up. So I really appreciate that. I'm about to hit 6,000 subscribers. So glory to God for that. So please like the live, push it out to the algorithm, and we're going to dive into today's topic here in a moment. But yeah, I wanted to give you all that white pill that people are waking up to this stuff. Even within the church, I've had just overwhelmingly positive feedback, despite the fact that there has been a reasonable amount of negative feedback. The substantial amount of feedback has been the positive feedback. So thank you for all your support, you guys. As usual, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And then you can sign up for members. Like I said, the members only live streams is one benefit. Another benefit is did someone say? Oh, someone said billions will be baptized. I thought someone said that they just got baptized. But yes, billions will be baptized. Amen. Lord willing. So that's first thing I got this week for you guys is the members only stream after this. The second thing is it looks like Thursday, instead of my normal time, I'm going to be going live with Fearless Truth, and we're going to do a stream together, and it's going to be specifically, well, he's going to do his normal topic of why aren't you Christian? And then I'm going to do the topic of Islam is incompatible with America, or Muslims don't belong in America. One of those two. And we're going to do some live debates over on TikTok and here on YouTube. And then after that gets kind of off the ground, then I'm going to probably start. I might do what Jay does with the Twitter space, like synced with a YouTube stream. I might just go ahead and do that just because it seems like it's cleaner audio and things of that nature, and I think I'll get a lot more callers in. And then eventually it's going to be both. It's going to be Twitter and TikTok at the same time for when I do my call-ins. My plan right now is to try to keep sort of this regular show at least on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I would like to keep this sort of like the regular format. And then Thursdays will sort of be my wild card. I'll either react to a debate or I'll do call-ins. And then I'm considering adding a Wednesday evening stream for specifically for call-ins over on TikTok and on Twitter. So all that being said, we are going to dive into today's topic. Now, I do want to say, so I a lot of you guys saw the video I posted, why I don't like the nation state of Israel, part 3, and it's about this topic of Israel and their role in mass migration, because there is a lot of people don't realize, that this is, a lot of people like to pit these issues against each other. It's like it's either you're pro-Muslim or you're pro-Israel, and as you guys know, I'm very adamantly opposed to both. And whenever I talk about the issue of Islam, it's actually ironic to me because lately, so I talk about the Jews all the time. You guys know that. I talk about that issue. I talk about Israel. I talk about the Jews literally like a lot. Like, you guys know this. It's actually funny because I get significantly more pushback when I talk about Muslims. For some reason, it's actually not when I talk about Jews. It's when I talk about Muslims that I get the most pushback. And so I don't know if that's because when people follow me, they think that I'm, some sort of, Muslim shill because I'm anti-Israel. I don't know. But I despise Islam. I think Islam is from Satan, just like Judaism is. And, there's people who'll be like, oh, well, at least the Jews, or at least the Muslims don't believe that that Christ is boiling in hot excrement. It's like, well, yeah, but they reduce him to a creature, which is blasphemy alone. They believe in apostasy laws. I mean, this is like a very simple thing to ask a Muslim, right? And we're going to go through all this, the apostasy law stuff. But it's like, if an 18-year-old girl converts from Islam to Christianity in America, do you believe she should be put to death? Right? And now they might say no, but their hadith begs to differ. And we're going to go through their hadith. And the reason why there's a precedent for this in Muslim countries, it's not like these Muslim countries are pulling this out of their rear end. Believe it or not, there actually is a precedent for apostasy laws, which is why you see this manifest in different countries. So we're going to go through these apostasy laws, but I want to go over a few before we dive into the Muslim stuff, right? Before we dive into the Muslim stuff, I want to go over like the source of the problem, because I get a lot of Arab Christians reach out to me and they're like, you should talk to, an Arab Christian so you can understand the background here. It's like, dude, I know that we are the ones that are displacing Muslims. I know that. Like, people think that I'm just going after immigration like on its own, right? That's not what I'm doing. I am attacking these issues at their source. Okay, it's foreign policy and it's mass migration. It's both. I talk about both. For some reason, I get way more pushback when I'm talking about mass migration, particularly of Muslims. So I don't quite understand that, but so far, that's been my experience. I'm just telling you guys what my experience has been, okay? Maybe you've had a different experience. Maybe you've been talking about both issues and you get more pushback for talking about Jews. I don't know. I'm just saying I get way more pushback when I talk about Muslims. So all this to say, I'm not going to play this entire video, but it is a pretty good summary of kind of the source issue we got going on here. So, and I just did a video on this exact topic. Particularly, I don't even think he has Israel Aid listed here. So Israel Aid is like the literal like Israeli NGO that's like pro-migration. So we are going to go over, before we dive into the Muslim issue, we are going to talk about where the problem lies. And let me just play this, and then I'll give you guys some commentary here.
So in case anyone wasn't aware, this is a list of all the J NGOs, which the J's set up in order to bus migrants into other countries. And so you'll have probably heard some talk about a Islamization of Europe. But really what's happening is that there is a certain group of tiny-hatted people in a tiny little country in the Middle East who has been destabilizing the entire region for going on 75 years now. and bombing and destroying all of the countries and the infrastructure in the countries. So we can talk about Syria, Iran, Lebanon, Somalia, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq. All of these countries have been basically reduced to no infrastructure and no economic opportunity. So people are forced to leave. And guess who buses these homeless migrants into Europe and America? It's this little group of tiny-hatted people right here, and they set up these things called NGOs, which is a non-governmental organization, which basically just gives them the ability to operate within countries without being a government organization. So basically, what they do is bomb and destabilize all these Muslim countries in the Middle East and in Africa. And then they come in and they set up these NGOs. And then these NGOs funnel these homeless migrants who these people made homeless. They funnel them into Europe and into America.
So I've been telling you guys this, from the beginning here, right? I've been telling you the perfect synergy that left and right wing Jews have, right? So the right wing Jews, which are primarily the Zionists, right? And it's not just the Zionists, it's the left wing Jews as well. There's hardly any left wing Zionists left, to be honest. There's very few. Most of the left wing Jews, honestly, don't care. Like George Soros times, don't really care about Israel. At least it doesn't seem like they do. They seem to be way more concerned with destroying the West than they do with anything regarding Israel. But anyways, as you can see here, there's this perfect synergy, right, between the right-wing Jews who bomb the shit out of these countries and destabilize them, right, and try to displace all the people that are living there, right, and then these left-wing NGOs hop in their humanitarian efforts, right, and they pay for these migrants to be resettled to the West, to Europe and the United States. So it's perfect synergy between the left-wing Jews who are opening the borders and the right-wing Jews who are bombing and displacing, okay? And America is playing right into their hand because our right-wing party is supporting the Zionists and our left-wing party is supporting the open borders agenda. So they're basically playing America like a fiddle, and very successfully. So I've been telling you guys this from the beginning, and this is why it is so retarded to try to draw this contrast between Islam and Israel or Islam and Judaism when they are literally working in perfect harmony. Now the Muslims are too stupid to even realize it's happening. So the Muslims on paper will be they'll be anti-Semitic and things of that nature, but they don't even realize that they're a weapon of the Jews. They have no clue. They don't have the IQ to be able to put together this invasion of the West. They would not be able to do that on their own. And that's what I try to challenge these conservatives. I'm like, you really think, these Zionist conservatives, you guys really think that 70 IQ inbred Muslims put together this plan to invade Europe and America and replace its population to destroy Western Christianity? You think they're smart enough to do that? You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind if you think they're smart enough to do that. They are the weapon of the Jews. They are the broom. They are the broom of the Jews. I've been saying this from the beginning. And by the way, the Jews actually, a lot of Jews will actually, they will explicitly say this. So you guys know I'm very careful. I usually don't say, oh, it's the Jews. It's the Jews. I like to show you guys which Jews I'm talking about, right? So I already did with the NGOs. Those NGOs are all pretty much left-wing Jews who, in the name of humanitarianism, are paying for these migrants to come into the West, right? But you guys can hear this is an Israeli security expert by the name of Daniel Shofton. Okay, he's an advisor to the prime ministers. All right, and listen to the way he speaks about Sweden.
My revenge on Sweden is Malmo. This is a place where people can't live anymore, and it's a very major problem, and they really deserve it. We only have two enemies in Europe at the moment, and this is Sweden and Ireland.
Because they recognize Palestine?
No. This is just a manifestation.
See, that's not their primary concern. Everybody always thinks it's about Israel. It's not just about Israel. Left-wing Jews love chaos. They love it. They love chaos because amidst chaos, they can take control. So it's not just about Israel. Everybody thinks. So notice how this guy, he immediately starts to go to Israel. That's what he thinks this is about. And he immediately gets corrected.
The Swedes are always very hostile. We have elections soon, so maybe things will change in Sweden. But the Swedes and the Irish are always very hostile.
But how? What do you mean?
Look, the Swedes have this fantasy that they are the people who will tell everybody who's right and who's wrong, and we look at them and say, who the hell are you? Actually, we use stronger language than this, okay, to ourselves. Okay? They're being ridiculous, and they have these perceptions that is... I
never heard that.
So, advisor to Israeli prime ministers explicitly saying his revenge on Sweden is making one of their cities unlivable because of mass migration. So when I say it, I'm an anti-Semite. In fact, I just posted this today. So a lot of you guys may have seen this here. So I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I might as well, since it has to do with what we're talking about. So this was an article in the Times of Israel that ended up being deleted. So they deleted this article, but I mean, it literally is about their disproportionate control in the media. And I'm actually going to go through Dan Bilzerian's tweet in a minute. Now, there's problems. Some of it's not true, but we'll go through a little bit of it so you guys can kind of get a little bit of a glimpse. And then this is AIPAC. So there was a fake screenshot going around that it showed 31 million views, and it was AIPAC saying that if you oppose Israel, we're going to get you out of office, which obviously is their mentality, but that was a fake screenshot. This was the real one, where they explicitly say that it was their community that helped elect these pro-Israel candidates, right? And so like these are two examples, right, of the quiet part out loud. And it's like, again, this advisor to the prime minister is multiple prime ministers actually explicitly saying, right, that this is their revenge. This is their revenge on the West, right? So a lot of you guys saw this tweet from Dan Bilzerian, and I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but this just gives a little bit of an idea, right, of the disproportionate control. 0.2% of the population, right? These people make up 0.2% of the population. Okay, so how? Someone explain to me. People like, are you an anti-Semite? It's like, dude, I don't even know. First of all, the formally recognized definition of anti-Semitism by the EU includes, like, the examples include just criticism of Israel. So we're getting to a point where literally it's considered anti-Semitic just to criticize Israel. Okay, but this tweet, of course, would be considered anti-Semitism, right? Even though, most of this is just objective. These are just objective facts. Okay, so these are all the things that are owned by Meta, right? Zuckerberg, Jewish. All the things owned by Alphabet, right? Including the platform we're on right now. Okay, these are particular members of the tribe who are involved in that. Okay, TikTok. We already know about Oracle and how Larry Ellison purchased Oracle. And they were open about this, by the way. And this is why I got to be really careful when I go over on TikTok, because I do think it's a valuable platform, especially for Zoomers. But unfortunately, I got to be really careful what I say over there, because it cannot be explicit the way I talk over here, because they literally said, right? They literally said that that this is a defense mechanism for them, right? For all the anti-Semitism that's in the news, right? Different hookup apps, right? This is the founder, right? Grindr, no surprise there. Bumble, porn. So this is obviously a big one. Everybody knows about OnlyFans, being under, and actually an avid Zionist as well. Not only Jewish, but an avid Zionist, which is why a lot of these actually I've heard of even normie like creators that like whores on OnlyFans who like left because they're like pro-Palestine, and so they didn't want to give money. So like, I mean, that's how blatant that one is. Even the left wingers are noticing that. Greg Lansky so MindGeek is a parent company for a lot of different porn companies. And that's been known for a long time. Also is owned by a Jewish person. So like, you guys can see, you can go look at this tweet, right? And like, see, like, I'm not going to go through all of it. I did notice one like factual error. He said that he brought up Palantir here. And he said that Peter Thiel is Jewish. Peter Thiel is not Jewish. So there's no evidence Peter Thiel is Jewish. Alex Karp is Jewish. Peter Thiel is Shabbos Goy. I actually thought Peter Thiel was Jewish for the longest time. He's actually not. So, but yeah, he brings up Palantir. And so yeah, again, like I got to go over this stuff, right? I got to go over this stuff because, the Muslims are I'm going to get accused of being an Israeli shill because I'm talking about Islam, right? And then vice versa, when I talk about the J issue, oh, well, now I'm like an anti-Semite, and I'm like a, Mohammedan, like, so I don't know, man. I can't win with you people. So I got to talk about both issues so that people don't start literally, bro. I literally had a magatard in my comments, like complaining about this. Like, he was like, you can't be, because I said, Israel's a terrorist state and Muslims don't belong in America. And he was like, pick a side, bro, pick a side. It's like, my side is Christ. My side is Christ. Okay. Israel is objectively a terrorist state. They were founded by three terrorist organizations. Okay, they've killed 73,000 people, only 9,000 of which have been combatants, despite what the IDF claims. The IDF claims it's 22,000, but third parties have come in and investigated and said, no, it's 9,000. Only 9,000 combatants out of the 73,000 killed. Okay, that's a terrorist state. That is a terrorist state. Okay, Muslims don't belong in America. We're going to get into that later in the episode. Both of these things are true. Both these things are true. And yet, when I fall on one side, I'm called a shill for the other side, which is just insanity. All right. So we're going to move on to the Muslim issue, because I want to show you guys the importance of this, so that you understand what we're dealing with here.
Live in Europe at the turn of the century. That number, 50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000.
46 million. 46 million.
And more are arriving every day. As the people who lead these countries try to do what Joe Biden tried to do here, and that is fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of a nation and make white Christians a minority in their own country. In England alone, right now, 10 major cities, including London, now have Muslim mayors in a nation that was built around the Church of England. Muslims are now running major cities across the country for the first time in history, and the English want us to believe that this is all normal.
The Muslim will come out and he will stand for truth and he will stand for justice. May Allah give us the ability to stand for the haqq.
So this is not the Middle East. It's not East Minneapolis even. That is England. And when you see
the fact that he has to say that, by the way, it's not East, guys. It's not Minneapolis. It's not the Middle East, and it's not Minneapolis. By the way, again, that's where I grew up. I grew up 20 minutes south of Minneapolis, okay? And my hometown is literally the second highest concentration of Somalis in the entire world, behind only Somalia. Only Somalia has a higher concentration of Somalis than Burnsville, Minnesota. So, like, it's just hilarious that he has to say it's not the Middle East. And guys, it's not even Minneapolis. It's not even Minneapolis.
Images like that, you can't help but ask why anyone, a prime minister or a president or a king, would deliberately try to destroy their own country. Why would you do that? Why is this being done? And because European leaders still celebrate our failed experiment in open borders, it failed here in the United States, and because they've chosen to stand with radical Muslims over their own people, it's because of all of these reasons these countries are falling apart and failing as the attack on Western civilization continues. In November 2015, 130 people were killed in Paris, France, when ISIS terrorists carried out multiple attacks in one day, targeting crowded restaurants, cafes, and large crowds. The French did nothing to close their borders. In March 2016, 32 people were killed at an airport in Belgium after an ISIS terrorist attack. They did nothing to secure their borders. In July 2016, 86 people were killed when ISIS terrorists ran down a Bastille Day crowd again in France, and they did nothing to close the border. The border stayed open after the 2017 London Bridge attack and the 2017 Manchester suicide bombing and the 2024 Christmas market attack in Germany. None of this was enough to stop or even slow the flow of radical Muslims into Western Europe. According to the European Union terrorism report, Europe had 58 terrorist attacks in 2024 alone, and no elected official in Europe has done anything to address this problem. Think about that. 58 terrorist attacks.
So the only response that these leftists have to this, or to Muslims, that Muslims have to this, what about Israel? What about Israel? What are you, a Jew shill? Like, that's the only response that they have. And so, I'm sorry, but this is still a problem, and no, that doesn't make me a freaking Zionist. Okay? No, it doesn't make me a Zionist to not want terror attacks in my backyard. That doesn't make me a Zionist, believe it or not. So I refuse to be gaslit on this issue by these Muslim sympathizers. Okay, I despise Islam. The fruit of Islam is very clear in the West. So this is a problem. This is a legitimate problem, and it flows right from the JQ issue. Right? These are not separate issues. And by the way, he talked about the various problems, right? That the various problems as far as like the judicial system, right? In Europe. And I had this tweet the other day. So a lot of you guys probably saw there was this young man who was literally stabbed to death by a migrant, and the police didn't even believe him that he was. So he was bleeding out. He was actively bleeding out. And the police didn't even believe him that he was stabbed. And he ends up dying. And then the judge is pushing for the murder charges to be reduced to manslaughter. The judge is pushing for this. These are all real things that happened. Just like a year ago, there was a guy in Oregon who was literally stabbed by a black guy. And the man's charges were dropped. He didn't even get charged with assault because the other guy said the N-word after he was stabbed. So the guy gets stabbed by a black dude, calls in the N-word, right? And then the dude's charges get dropped. Doesn't even get charged for assault. He said it after. It wasn't even like he said it before. It wasn't even like it was some sort of agitation. He said it after. Of course, everyone knows about Irina Zarutska. And look, so everybody likes to talk about, mentally incompetent to stand trial. He votes. So he's not competent to stand trial for the murder in cold blood of a white girl, of which he said right after, I got that white girl, but he's competent enough to vote in elections for our governing officials. Think about how insane that is. Think about how absolutely diabolical and backwards that is. But that's the society we live in. That is the current dynamic in our system of justice, if you will. There's no justice. This one had me fuming. There was two girls over in the UK. They were literally, it was like a 14 and 15-year-old girl. Both of them were sexually assaulted and filmed in the act. And all three, it was three children of migrants, all three of them will face no jail time. And the judge said it was because they were mentally deficient. Once again, when these future doctors and engineers turn 18, they will be able to vote. In fact, in the UK, they're pushing for a 16-year-old to be able to vote. So these future doctors and lawyers who sexually assaulted and filmed two girls are not going to face justice, not even close. They're not even going to go to prison. But this is the situation in the West, ladies and gentlemen. This is the situation. This is what we're dealing with. So I'm not going to be gaslit by you people that are calling me a Zionist for talking about this. This is a problem. And I don't want Muslims in my country. Third world migrants, they got to go. They got to go. This is what they bring. And they don't even know. The judge is saying, oh, they don't know. You guys thought I was joking when I said these people don't know that sexual assault is wrong. That's literally what the judge was saying. That they didn't have the mental capacity to understand that you need consent. So I'm not going to be gaslit on this issue. It's a problem. It's a problem. So, in Denmark is one of the only places that actually. So there's been a push in Europe. This is another just absolutely. It's again crazy that this is a thing. Like they won't publish a lot of times in Europe. They won't publish the stats by country of origin because they're so disproportionate. They're so disproportionate to the nations, the third world nations. So they just won't publish them because they think it's racist. This was literally the Pakistani gangs that were literally trafficking young girls in the UK. Openly, the people that knew about it and didn't whistle blow, they literally said that it was because they didn't want to be called racist. They openly said this. So, and by the way, it's not just violent crime. It's also white collar crime. It's fraud. So, and we know from Minnesota what the Somalis do, right? But you can see the country of origin here. It's not immigrants from the United States. It's not immigrants from Germany. Nope, it's Uganda. It's Syria. It's Somalia is basically at the top of all of these. It's Palestinians, particularly the Arab Palestinians. Groping, again, top of the line is Syria, robbery, Somalia. You guys can see, do you see any, look at the comparison to the natives of Denmark. Look at this. Look how lopsided this is. So these are Ethiopians, Iraqis, Afghanistan. And look, whether it be these people genuinely don't know that these things are wrong, or whether it be they're doing this intentionally, I don't know. It doesn't matter, to be honest. It doesn't matter. The point is that these people are not compatible with the West. That's the point. Welcome to the new member, Aaron. Thank you for joining the members here on YouTube. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to be going over, at the end, I'm going to do a members-only stream. So if you guys want to sign up for memberships, I'm going to be doing a members-only stream, and I'm going to go over some quotes from a saint on the topic of race and nations that a lot of you guys have been asking for. So I'm going to go over that at the end. So if you want to be a member, you can sign up. And then please, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please like and subscribe. And then, of course, I'll go over all super chats at the end, as always. All right. So I have a few more stuff like this that I want to go over before we dive into the Muslim issue. In fact, I actually have a video that I'm going to react to before we do that, because it was a video I saw last night that I was like, I gotta respond to this. So I'm gonna respond to it. So we're gonna go through that in a moment. But I did want to show you guys this here. So I posted this on my Instagram story, and you can see here. I mean, like, look at so Poland. Just for context here, Poland has upheld a very strict migration policy, and they, in fact, like I talked to you guys about this before, like they had like a fraction of a percent of a Muslim population, and they were like rioting in the street over it. And so like they're pretty based over there for the most part. I know a lot of people from Poland will actually contest that. They'll be like, it's not as good as you guys think it is. Maybe it's not. It never is. But you can see, at least in this respect here, the sexual assault stats from 2000 to 2023, right? So theirs went down by 53%. So anyone that's saying, right, anyone that's going to be like, oh, it's because of population increase. So with population increase, well, first of all, that's not how percentages work, first of all. But second of all, like, I mean, Poland's still has gone down. So that's why this is a substantial stat here, because Poland's rate has gone down substantially. Well, a decent amount since 2000. Look at Britain. So Britain, almost 700%. I mean, this is in the thousands if you date it back to the 90s. Germany, 380% increase. And then France, 465% increase. So, and guess what? Like, their bureaucrats are not doing anything about this. Now, credit to Britain, because they are electing in a lot of these restore candidates. So glory to God for that, because, I mean, my goodness. So you can see that I'm not just like pulling this out of my rear end, guys. Like, this is legitimate. And this is coming to the United States. That's what really frustrates me about a lot of these people, is they'll be like, oh, like, this is just a problem in Europe. The Muslim immigration thing is just a problem in Europe. No, it's not. Because guess what? This is how it starts. They come here and they start with a few cities. They start with Minneapolis, and they start with Dearborn, Michigan, and they start with a few cities, right, where they build strongholds, and then they just keep doing that. They keep building cities that are strongholds, and before you know it, you have cities in America that are operating under Sharia law, where there's apostasy laws, where if you convert to Christianity, you get stoned to death. That's a real thing. And we're going to go over their apostasy laws, because no, it's not Zionist propaganda. It is a real thing. Just because something was magnified by propaganda does not mean it's not a legitimate concern. How are you guys doing? So we're going to settle in here for a minute, because I'm going to react to a video I saw from a Zionist where he was debating a free Palestine, like, I don't know, bisexual, e-girl or something. I don't even know. But I want to react to this because it was pretty cringe. But if you guys would mind, please like the live. Please like and subscribe. And if you're not already subscribed, like I said, we're going to do a members only stream at the end. And looks like we're getting our viewership up. So if you guys wouldn't mind just helping to push it out to the algorithm. And then, of course, as always, I'll go over all super chats at the end. And thank you to my new members. All right, so I want to go over this video here before we dive into the main topic. So nobody can accuse me of being some Zionist shill for talking about Muslims raping our women and wanting to stone people to death for converting to Christianity. You can't call me a Zionist shill because I just spent, the last 40 minutes, and I'm about to spend another at least 15 on this issue of Zionism and how it's actually the cause of the Muslim immigration and how it's a problem. So without further ado, let's dive into this very cringe video that I had to watch last night.
What's up?
Hello. What's going on?
Not much. Just running into some crazy Arabs right now.
I'm running into all sorts of crazy people today.
It's actually such a shame that conservatives in America, people who claim to be conservative, have bought into this Zionist bullshit. It's actually very, very sad. And it's one of the reasons why I'm going to start debating this issue with conservatives, because we got to get them on board, man. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep defending this nonsense. We got to stop with this false dichotomy between Islam and Israel. We got to stop. It's got to be done. We got to move on as a country, and we can only do that when we get past this issue. Okay, we can't deal. These are both 911 problems. Foreign influence and mass migration are both 911 problems in America. And we got to be, as right-wingers, we got to be united on these issues, man. And so I'm going to be debating hopefully their top guy on this issue.
Crazy people on this platform.
Yeah. Oh my God. Are you pro-Israel, I take it?
Yeah, I am.
It's kind of easy to tell. I don't know why I could.
The flag, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
It's a dead giveaway,
Yeah. No, that's smart, though, to put something like that. Cool. Well, I would consider.
Now I'm getting trolled in the comments. Benjamin Michael Yahoo. Guys, listen. Okay, I gotta come clean to you. Okay, so first of all, I share a first name with Big Yahoo. Okay, we have the same first name, and then also I was born the same year he became prime minister. Okay, so I'm just saying, I gotta come clean to you now. I gotta come clean to you now about these, so that later when people try to expose me, I can say, look, I've been warning people about this from the beginning. So listen, you're gonna find it out eventually. So I just had to, I had to come clean to you guys. Okay, I had to come clean.
Myself pretty pro-Palestine, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you could get that by the.
It's funny, like, I know you guys are trolling, but it's like funny, like, watching the comments. So I'm Benjamin Michael Yahoo, and I'm a Mossad agent when I'm talking about the Muslim issue, and then when I'm talking about the Israel issue, I'm Benjamin Hakikachu, and I'm a Mohammedan. So it's like, I know you guys are trolling, but that's like unironically, that's literally like unironically the feedback that I experience.
Really obviously, like, annoying liberal teen aesthetic I got going on, but
Are you queer by any chance?
yeah, definitely.
Chickens for KFC? Is that what it is?
Listen, I don't think that most Palestinians would personally like me. Just
This talking point as a right winger is so funny to me. This is so funny to me. You should support Israel because they're gay, and the Palestinians hate gays. So you shouldn't be pro-Palestine. And I get it, he's like critiquing her, but it's like, as right wingers, like, what are we doing? Tel Aviv is literally the gay capital of the world. What are we doing, man? So I should support Israel because it's gay? That's your talking point? As a right winger? What are we doing? What are we doing, dude? Guys, you should support Israel because it's super gay. They have the biggest gay pride parade in the world in Tel Aviv. Okay, so you got to support Israel. Bro, like, what are we doing? What are we doing here as right wingers? Like, this guy would claim to be right wing, and this is his talking point.
I think a lot of people that are not in like a Western world would like me personally. But I do think that doesn't necessarily mean that a genocide should be tolerated.
And that's also true. Like, what she just said is true. Like, so she might be bisexual or whatever, whatever nonsense, sexual identity she has. But like you can objectively still acknowledge that there's a moral atrocity occurring, right? Again, 73,000 dead and only 9,000 being combatants. Like, hello. And they're going to get bogged down. Actually, I'll let
I
it
think there was a
keep
difference
going here.
between. Well, obviously, I don't think there's a genocide going on. Like, I reject that premise. But I think there's a difference between not.
By the way, when you guys engage in these debates, I don't recommend getting bogged down in the terminology of like genocide or ethnic cleansing or whatever. Like, unless you're just going to vaguely define genocide as like mass murder, which is fine, which is very true. Like, it's very clearly mass murder. So yeah, you don't want to get bogged down in these when you're doing these
liking
debates.
You and beheading you and putting your head in the street, which is what happens to so-called Palestinians in the West Bank or, for example, in Gaza. And so it's a little bit more than that. What's actually interesting is you can look up an article on this where Israel has been accepting Palestinian refugees from the West Bank. That are fleeing persecution because of the fact that they're gay. So it's like Israel is saving gay Palestinians in the West Bank, but you're not supporting Israel.
By bombing the children's hospitals in the West Bank, just to be clear.
No. What are you talking? You're just making that up. I think you're talking about Gaza, and you're not even accurate about that.
What are you talking about? They're like demolishing. Have you seen the before and after?
Damn, I was muted.
Of Gaza?
Of Gaza? Yes.
You guys missed a good rant. I was muted. You guys missed a good rant. Wow, best rant. That's crazy. I was saying, like, this, what are we doing as conservatives, right? Like, what are we doing? You guys are cooking me in the comments. Like, literally, like, what are we doing here? Like, guys, as conservatives, we got to support Israel because they give asylum to gay people. Like, that was his argument.
Welcome to war.
Yeah.
Yes, don't start wars, right?
War
sucks.
They didn't start it when Israel has.
Yeah, that's not an excuse, okay? That's not an excuse to, again, at least, someone said it's more than 73,000. I'm just going off the third-party statistics, right? Yeah, it's probably more. But I'm just saying that, look, that's not an acceptable ratio, even if it was war. By the way, like, to call this a war, I don't even know if I would call this a war. This is like a skirmish. Like, you have like a paramilitary group, right? That's like 20,000 people at most in a population of 2.1 million. And you're basically justifying like leveling the entire place, right? Because of these 20,000 combatants that live there.
Been trying to take a fucking country. I think that it is pretty ridiculous, the idea that Israel can control all of the infrastructure of places like Gaza and then pretend as if it's just totally out of the blue. I can't imagine why like an organization like Hamas would exist. I can't imagine why they would protest to such insane extent.
I can imagine Islam, but Israel has not been.
Or how about the fact that they've been occupied by Israel since at least the 1960s? Like, how about that? Like, is that the reason? Why wouldn't that be the reason? Like, you've had your boot on their neck for literally like the better part of a century. And like, yeah, okay, I get it. Islam is extreme. And I'm not some Muslim shill, as you guys are going to see as we get later into this video. But it's like, just to blame that on, to take no accountability. And this is one of the points I like to make is like, look, are we holding Israel to the standard of Middle Eastern countries, or are we holding them to the standard of Western countries? Like, which is it? And these guys seem to want to have their cake and eat it too with that question.
Controlling the infrastructure in Gaza, by the way. Hamas has been controlling it since they took power.
Yeah, I wonder why. Why do you think Hamas would want to take power? Why do you think it's such a violent organization? It's not like they're just like Neanderthal.
Yeah, another great point. Hamas was funded by Netanyahu, right? And like, he literally propped up Hamas. So, and this is, again, wide open for anyone to read about. Like, they don't even contest this. They'll say, oh, well, it was better than the alternative, so he had to prop them up. Like, what? That doesn't even make any sense.
I don't believe it's arbitrary either. In the 1988 Hamas charter, they explicitly talk about wanting to kill every Jew hiding behind a rock because that's what it says, for example, in their Hadith books. So yeah, it's not arbitrary. I agree with you. It's called fundamental Islam. It's the same reason why ISIS does what they do. It's because of their extremist ideology. It's not arbitrary, of course.
And I actually think that a lot of these terror groups are similar in that they're responding to incredibly complex and tense socio-political events going on in their countries. The answer to that is not just demolishing and genociding all of the people and citizens of that state.
Gaza's population has actually grown, by the way. Just making sure you know that.
If you look at the statistics through this war, if that's what you want to call it, you will see that the death toll in Gaza.
Thanks for the gifted memberships. Shout out Isaac for the gifted memberships. And whoever just got gifted memberships, you guys can join for a members only live stream at the end of this stream. So I'm going to be, like I told you guys earlier, I'm going to be doing a members only live stream at the end of this. So stick around and sign up for memberships if you're not already one.
So like astronomically higher than that of Israel. It doesn't matter. It is astronomically.
Okay, so higher than Israel. Okay, that's fine. That's not how like we measure who's morally. That's
Israel
fine, but that's not how we measure who's morally superior. That's fine, but that's not how we measure who's morally superior. For example, do you think
it's a measurement? Like this isn't necessarily like a great argument, but this is one measurement in which you can take to identify an evil act that's being committed. Right? Is the ratio, right? Which is substantially more Gazans have been killed than Israelis. Okay, actually, I got to show you guys this. So there's actually a doctrine. There is an Israeli doctrine on disproportionate response, and this is what a lot of these conservatives get wrong. Right? They're taking an approach like in their sort of apologetics to Israel, where they're basically like assuming that Israel abides by the same moral standards that like we do. Right? Which is just untrue. They just don't. Okay. I got to show you this. This is insane. I couldn't even believe that this was like a real thing. So, the Daya doctrine, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Daya doctrine, right? An Israeli military strategy articulated after the 2006 Lebanon war, which advocates for the use of overwhelmingly disproportionate force against military targets embedded within civilian infrastructure. Gosh, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound familiar to everything that's happening in Gaza? So, no, it's not an excuse that it's wartime. Your own doctrine is in favor of disproportionate response, which is why there's substantially more casualties in Gaza than there were from October 7th. Or like basically the entire like death toll of the war in total.
I think more German soldiers died in World War II than American soldiers?
I'll accept that that's a fair point, that it's not.
Okay, great. Do you agree to that?
Who is morally...
Welcome, Bill, to my memberships. Hope to see you at my members only stream after this episode.
You agree to that, though?
But I'll accept that.
Okay, great.
point.
So who was morally superior in World War II? America or Germany?
Personally believe.
See, again, guys, this is another tip. When you get posited these questions, say, who is morally superior, the Soviets or Germany? See, these normies don't know how to answer that question because the Soviets were objectively worse, significantly. So you guys know I'm a non-interventionist, right? So when you guys get posited these questions, you need to flip the framing and bring up the Soviets because the Soviets were objectively way worse, numbers-wise. So it's already, his framing is improper.
America.
And like other people we allied with, like Churchill committed a genocide against the Indian population. 3 million Indians were starved because of Churchill. So, like the people we were allied with weren't exactly saints.
Okay, great. So like
obviously
death
not the
tolls,
Nazis.
them having more, deaths than we, for example, incurred does not mean that they are morally superior. So that argument is horrible.
Right, but this is going under the premise of a war, which this is not. This has been an extermination, and
war.
it is incredibly, incredibly one-sided.
Well, it is a war because there are.
The fact that bro is getting cooked by a bisexual e-girl right now is just embarrassing. Again, as conservatives, I don't even know, like, I don't even like the label conservative anymore. But like, as right wingers, like, what are we doing here, dude? Like, oh, you should support Israel because they're gay. And also, it's okay to kill 73,000 people, only 9,000 of which were combatants because it's a wartime. And Nazis. Like, this is what we're going with as right wingers for our talking points. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing that you're getting cooked by a bisexual e-girl who thinks that genital mutilation for children should be taxpayer funded. Like, that's who you're getting cooked by right now, bro.
2 or more sides engage in armed conflict, so it is a war.
I would consider it a genocide. I don't think I can accept
What's
that
the
premise.
definition of a genocide?
A mass extermination of a particular.
I would just say mass murder. Like, you don't need to get into like the UN definitions. You can, but like if someone asks this question to you and you're talking about this, I would just say mass murder.
Group of individuals.
I mean, that's not the actual definition. I doubt that you've like.
I think it's
read
a
into it.
colloquial. This is like not my personal topic that I usually debate,
Right.
but it's something that I believe to be true.
That's fine, but I don't think that we should just like colloquially use terms like genocide because it's like, again, it's like the most defaming, smearing accusation you can make.
This is why I don't encourage getting bogged down. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we call it, dude. It's wrong. It's wrong. And so like they're going to try to win on these technicalities. This is what people with losing arguments do, is they try to win on technicalities, right? And so don't give them any chance to go after technicalities. If you're going to use the term genocide, you define it just as mass murder. That's it. And I don't even recommend, just say mass murder. Just say there's mass murder happening. You don't even need to say genocide.
Of a country, obviously, of course, right? It's the most severe accusation you can make of any country is that they're engaging in genocide. So I think we should understand the term if we're going to use it. I mean, but you're kind of there to an extent. Do you actually believe that Israel wants to exterminate the population of Gaza, though?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then why is it that less than 3% of the population has died, including civilians, combatants, collaborators, natural deaths since October 7th?
This point, oh my gosh, I am so glad he brought this up. I forgot that he brought this up. I wish I was talking to him in here because I would have cooked him right here, because the finance minister explicitly told us why they haven't killed all the Gazans yet. He explicitly told us. August of 2024, Israeli finance minister says it would be moral to starve all 2 million Gazans. That's the population of Gaza. It's 2.1 million. To all 2 million Gazans. But no one in the world would let us. So anytime they bring up this talking point, guys, when they bring up, oh, why hasn't Israel, if they're really going for a mass extermination, why haven't they killed them all yet? They clearly have the ability. They told us why. They told us the reason why. Because the world wouldn't let them. They literally said, they openly said they want to. And they said the only reason they're not is because the world won't let them. The backlash would be too substantial. So they told us why. So anytime they bring up this talking point, bro, like it's cooked. That talking point is so cooked.
I think
It's a really bad
I
extermination.
don't really.
It takes her a minute
I
to
don't know
figure
if
this
I
one out.
believe that. I've not heard
It's
that
the number.
before.
So how many people live in Gaza, for example?
I can't tell you the exact number of people.
Yeah,
that
but
live
you
in
have a
Gaza.
guess at all?
No,
No clue?
no. Please, by all means, tell
Yeah,
me.
so there's about 2.1 million people in the Gaza Strip, and they say that about like 70,000 people have died, including civilians, combatants, collaborators, natural deaths, and so on.
Okay.
And so that would be about 3.3% of the Gaza Strip.
Saying that is someone in the comments says that was CNN. Bro, it's an exact quote. Go look it up. Bro, everybody reported on it. Like, what do you mean that's CNN? It was an exact quote from the finance minister.
I'm just gonna Google that. I don't know if that's even.
Yeah, just look up the amount of people that
true.
have died. It's like 70, maybe
Yeah.
75,000 around there. And so you divide that by 2.1 million, which is the total population of Gaza Strip, times 100, that's
Okay.
3.3.
Yeah, 72,000.
Right, so about 70,000.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's. I mean,
And
you're
less than 2,000 Israelis, just to be clear.
Yeah, but you said they were trying to exterminate the Palestinians, right?
Yeah.
And so
Are these
3.3% of the population has died
70,000 like
in over 2
militants?
years.
Are these 70,000 people that have died militants, or are they innocents?
No,
Just
70,000
clear.
militants, civilians, natural
know.
deaths.
73,000 total. Actually, they think there's another 10,000 underneath all of the rubble. But at least 73,000. And like I said, third parties like The Guardian have investigated and determined only 9,000 of them were combatants.
Internal
The IDF
infighting.
says it's 22,000. Total bullshit. Total bullshit. Because there's been multiple third parties that have said it's 9,000, not 22,000.
Like everything, all
Do you,
deaths
do you
in
think
Gaza.
that is okay?
I didn't say it was okay, but
The
do you agree
innocent
that this
people.
is obviously like a bad extermination, though, right? It's been over 2.5 years, and
Not when they admitted that the only reason why they're not actually exterminating is because they can't, because the world. And she finally figures this out.
what, 3.3%
Takes her
of
a
the
minute.
population has died? And by the way, the population has actually increased as well. Like, this is a
I
really
think
bad
they would
extermination, right?
Continue to eliminate as many as they could if given the chance. I'm sure there's different
do you know
factors that
anything-
I just personally don't understand.
Do you know anything
but-
about Gaza? Or, like, their military abilities? They have no air defense systems.
they have
no
nothing.
Patriot system. They
Yeah,
have
they
no
have
Iron
nothing.
Dome. They have none of that stuff.
Exactly.
So, like, and Israel does. Israel has
Exactly.
bombers, F-35
Yeah.
Is, F-16. There's nothing stopping them from literally killing everybody. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's nothing.
There's something called international law. There's something called international law actually stopping them. Which, like, I mean, this is just it's so funny. It's so funny.
stopping
You
them.
don't think that the various nations of the world would be incredibly upset if they got, I don't want to use the word like nuked, but like literally just 100%.
So you agree they're not
eviscerated?
trying to exterminate them then, obviously.
No, you asked me if you think that they would like to, and I said yes.
Send me that quote, Evan, of them saying there are no innocents. I know about Netanyahu saying he doesn't want Gazans to have any home to return to. That's another one. Netanyahu openly said he doesn't want any Gazans to have a home to return to. Yeah, send me that quote, Evan. You can text it to me. Oh, let me give you a mod while I think of it.
This is the thing. You brought up originally, right, that Israel wants to exterminate the Gaza Strip. Do you believe they want to do so?
I'm sure they would have given the chance, yeah.
If given the chance. There's nothing like actually, like you're saying that they may have like incur international pressure. Of course they would if they literally just destroy the entirety of the Gaza Strip. But this is obviously not extermination. 3.3% of the population dying over the span of 2.5 years is not extermination. Do we agree that's silly? Like what percent of the European Jewish population died during World War II and during the Holocaust?
I don't know.
Well over 60%.
But the
And-
global
Regardless of
population, so this is disputed. It's disputed over whether, like, because if you look at the almanac, so I'll show you guys the almanac from 1948. This is interesting to me, right? That was pretty much it for the video. But he basically he draws the comparison of like World War II and the Jewish population, which for obvious reasons, I'm not gonna dive into in extreme detail here, but the one thing to note here, that from the pre-World War II to the post-World War II era, at least according to the almanac in 1948 and 1933, the Jewish population actually went up slightly by 400,000 total, and the Christian population went down by 90 million. So, and you guys can see this it's from the World Almanac, 1948. But the Christian population literally went down by 90 million from 1933 to 1948, which, of course, like nobody seems to talk about that. So yeah, that's pretty much that video. I mean, like, here's the times of it. This other guy that was saying CNN. Most CNN. Bro, like, here's the Times of Israel reporting the same shit. Like, this is Times of Israel. Is that okay as a source? Most CNN, bro. Times of Israel literally explicitly saying that this is what the finance minister said. Because it was an exact quote. The finance minister is a loose cannon, bro. He talks about annexing Jordan randomly. Like, bro, he is all over the place. So, yeah, all right. Let's see if Evan sent me this. Or if this was something else that he sent me. No, this is something different. Okay. Let me know if you have that, Evan. And I'll pull it up, that quote that you cited. So, all right, so I want to dive into the main topic of the stream here. It's going to be probably a longer stream today. So, oh, okay. Someone said they were trolling. Okay, my bad. I can't tell who the ops are, bro. I can't tell who the ops are. Like, sometimes it's hard to tell. All right, so my bad. But actually, it's good. It's actually good you brought it up, because now I was able to show you guys that it's also in Times of Israel. I sent you a database of multiple quotes from Israeli politicians and ministers saying, "Oh, is that what that was that you sent on Signal?" Okay, I'll save it. I'll save it for another time because I have a lot to get to here. All right, so before we get into my members only stream at the end, I have a ton of content here to go over with you guys. Thank you for the super chats. Trolling again with the Mets. As always, I'll go over super chats at the end. We still got a long way to go on this stream, so it's going to be a bit, but I will go over all the super chats at the end. Thank you guys for the memberships as well. I'd love to have you join for the members only stream at the end. There we go. We broke 80 viewers. Nice. If you guys would mind liking the video and subscribing. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I'm live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And I go over politics, religion, particularly Orthodoxy. And I am anti-Israel. I am anti-Islam. And I am pro-America. And I would consider myself pro-white, which does not mean that I'm anti-black or I'm anti-Asian. I just am pro-white. I want my people to not go extinct. So that's the stuff that I talk about on this show. All right, so I want to dive into the Israeli propaganda, otherwise known as Muslim Hadith. So I will give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what Hadith is. So Muslims have actually a kind of a similar setup as that a lot of you that are familiar with church fathers. So there's something called tafsir, which is basically their church father commentary, their Muslim father commentary or something. And then there's also something called hadith, which the hadith are going to be inherently authoritative. And there's 3 levels of hadith that are based on the chain of narration. There's da'if, which is a low, untrustworthy but still authoritative chain of narration. And then there's Hasan, which means the chain of narration is good. And then there's Sahih, which means the chain of narration is excellent. So if there's a Sahih hadith, then that would be very authoritative, not quite as authoritative as the Quran itself, but it is binding for every Sunni Muslim. So for those of you guys who don't know, there's 2 primary categories of Muslims. There's the Sunnis, which is the majority of Islam, and then there's the Shias. And the Shias make up a minority, and they have their own hadith and their own stuff on this that I'll have to go out through on a later date. But the Sunnis are the ones that subscribe to these particular hadiths that I'm about to go over. So this is a Sahih hadith. It's Sahih Al-Bukhari, which is one of their most up there with Sahih Muslim. Sahih Muslim and Sahih Al-Bukhari are the 2 most authoritative hadiths in Sunni Islam. And so this is one of the most cited when it comes to this topic. So it says the news of this event reached Ibn Abbas. So Ibn Abbas was Muhammad's cousin. who said, if I had been in this place, I would not have burnt them as Allah's messenger forbade it, saying, do not punish anybody with Allah's punishment fire. I would have killed them according to the statement of Allah's messenger. Whoever changed his Islamic religion, then kill him. So like this is pretty explicit. Literally says, if you leave Islam, you're put to death, right? Now there is like a grace period. So like this is at times like it'll be like 3 days. So there is like a grace period sometimes, but if you are like actually you leave Islam like literally like and permanently, the Islamic doctrine according to Sahih Hadith is to put to death. So this is not Israeli propaganda, right? This is not Israeli propaganda. This is right in their Hadith, and I will show you guys one other Hadith, because there's 2 primary ones that are cited for this particular topic. Oh, shoot. I think I put the same one twice. It's okay. I forgot to link that Hadith. Here, let me try to dig it up real quick. Let's see if I, let's see here. I had put my notes together like super late last night, because I just got back from San Diego, and so it looks like I accidentally. Just give me one moment. I want to pull up the second one here. See if this was the right one. How you guys doing? Please like and subscribe if you're not already doing so. Yeah, so 6922 is the one we already looked at. Let's see if this is the other one. This is actually a different one than the one that I this is another one in Al-Bukhari. So there's a couple hadiths that talk about this. So this is giving reasons for the death penalty. This is another one in Bukhari, and explicitly says, because he says I cannot be shed except in 3 cases. Basically adultery, or excuse me, murder, adultery, and apostasy, right? So you can see this is a precedent in multiple hadiths. I want to find the one that I was reading last night. Sahih Muslim says the same thing as that one. I don't know. I'll find it later. But either way, there's multiple hadiths, as you guys can see. There was 2. There's a third one that I just can't find right now. That say this explicitly. That are in favor of apostasy laws. And then there actually is precedent in the Quran itself. Now this one's a little bit more nuanced, which is why you need the tafsir. So, like I was explaining earlier. So they have the Quran, and then they have like commentary on the Quran through tafsir. So I'll show you guys this one. This is chapter 4, verses 88 through 91 of the Quran. It says, why are you believers divided into 2 groups regarding the hypocrites, while Allah allowed them to regress to disbelief because of their misdeeds? Do you wish to guide those who left by Allah to stray? And whoever Allah leaves astray, you will never find for them a way. They wish you would disbelieve as they have disbelieved, so you may all be alike. So do not take them as allies unless they emigrate to the cause of Allah. But if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them, and do not take them as allies or helpers. So you can see that there is a precedent for this in the Quran. And then, thankfully, we can actually see this extrapolated in the tafsir. So I'll put this tafsir in the chat so you guys can actually see. So like I said, the tafsir is like their version of like church father commentary. And this is all throughout the tafsir on this passage, right? You can see that this is clearly what's being talked about, is putting to death those that apostatized from the faith. So why am I bringing up apostasy laws? Well, I wanted to show you guys that this isn't like I get I get accused of like Israeli propaganda, right? By talking about apostasy laws when it's very clear, like, no, this is like in the Quran, this is in their hadith, right? And there is a precedent for it. In fact, it is binding. And so you guys heard the point I made when I talked with Josiah in my back and forth a couple days ago, like a week and a half ago now, when I explicitly said, look, like technically a Muslim could live in the West, but they'd have to be living contrary to their belief, to their religion, right? They'd have to be living completely contrary to their religion. And like apostasy laws alone, right? Apostasy laws alone justify this. Like, I'm sorry, but believing that a Christian young man or young woman or 80 year, it doesn't matter what age, right? But someone who converts to Christianity from Islam, but it should be put to death. That's incompatible with America. Sorry, that's incompatible with America. And people will bring up like apostasy laws in like Christian cultures, but if you look at the Orthodox context, right, it was a civil violation. So in other words, there was certain privileges that you would get if you were a Christian in society, and then if you stopped being a Christian, you would lose those privileges, right? That's not the same thing as, oh yeah, if you leave our religion, we're going to stone you to death. Those are not the same thing, right? Those are not the same thing. So they'll often, and then they'll cite like the Old Testament, particularly Deuteronomy 17, which is, first of all, it's about people who were leaving worshiping Yahweh to worship pagan gods, where they literally had to sacrifice babies. They sacrificed children to these pagan gods, right? So that was apostasy in that day and age. That was what it entailed. Okay? That's the first thing. Second thing, that was civil law for the nation of Israel in the Old Testament. So we can look at Christian societies. Listen, the ultimate argument that buries these people is you can look at Christian societies and Muslim societies, and are Christian societies producing these nonsensical laws, right? And by the way, did Jesus command Judas to be stoned? Did he command Peter to be stoned? What about John 6, when a bunch of his disciples leave him? Did he command them to be stoned? So Jesus is our prescription, right, for Christian morality, which is why we see Christian law being in accordance with Christ and Christ's law, right? We are not under the Mosaic law. We're definitely not under the civil law. The civil law can help us, right? It can there could be influence from the civil law in the Old Testament to understand these issues, right? But they have to be examined. They have to be examined in their context, which, like I just said, is sacrificing babies, sacrificing children to Moloch. Yeah, you can't do that. So, that's murder, first of all. So we got to put you to death over that. That was the Old Testament code under the civil law in Israel, according to Deuteronomy 17. That is not the same thing. That is not even close to the same thing as what we see in Afghanistan, Iran, northern part of Nigeria, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Maldives, Qatar, Somalia, even Dubai, guys. Everybody loves Dubai. They think Dubai is like modern and shit like that. It's not. They still have apostasy laws there. You still get put to death for apostasy in Dubai. Okay? Yemen. There's all these places where you literally get put to death. And look, I'm sorry, but that is just never going to be compatible with the United States. That's never going to be compatible with the United States. So I have quite a bit more on this topic of why Islam is incompatible with America. I may do a totally separate episode on it because I have so much, because I want to react to this video of a Muslim sheikh who basically was saying this exact thing that I'm talking about. It's actually kind of funny. So I'll show you guys this here.
I'm aligned with the white supremacists on this one, the Islamophobes. What? I think Muslims.
By the way, like, this framing is so ridiculous. Like, why are we talking about like it's white supremacy to not want people in my country who believe if they convert to Christianity they should be stoned to death? That's white supremacy. What are we talking about here?
Should go back home.
Yes, you should go back home. I agree.
All right.
Look, we just have to respect that this is their country.
Yep.
This is their home.
Uh-huh.
If white America, if they had the right ideology of life, they wouldn't be racist in the first place. But they don't have.
Why is it? Who says it's racist, bro? Who's talking about racism? Like, do you see what they do with their framing?
Right viewpoint about life. The non-Muslim Americans understand that your values contradict their values. We need to understand as
our values don't entail child marriage, cousin marriage, and stoning to death people who leave our religion. You're right. Our values are a little bit different.
We have a home. Our comfort now is coming to bite us because we are not turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're turning to the dunya. And this is the problem. What kind of God would let his servants lose when they support him?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are back on Islamic.
All right, we're going to skip ahead here.
Supporting him? Should we not be supporting him?
Mamdani.
Should we even have a Muslim mayor? Sheikh, today what I want to do is I want to play devil's advocate, okay? Because I really want to get to the bottom of it.
Astaghfirullah.
All ham to Allah.
Just kidding.
All ham to Allah.
Right. I want to play angel's advocate.
All right, here we go.
All right, so I want to get to the bottom of it and figure out who's in the right, what's the right position on Muslims in America or in the West generally, okay?
Yep.
When we look at Mamdani, right, his mother's Hindu, his father's a communist professor, 12er Shia, his wife is not that religious and not that practicing. He's born in Uganda, raised here in America, and he's made this his home, right? Now he's representing New York. So a lot of people, like, there's mixed feelings around him, right? But
yeah, which, I mean, and this is something that, like, the normie conservatives actually point out, like, is a glaring contradiction. Like, why is there the only thing that unites the left and Muslims is anti-white. Like, they just both hate white people, particularly white Christians. Like, that's the only thing allying these two populations. Otherwise, they are directly opposed on every major issue. I mean, Muslim hadith literally says that women are half-wits. It explicitly says multiple hadiths. And these are the people that are allied with, like, feminists. And the only thing they have in common is that they hate white people. That's it.
Seems like Muslims and non-Muslims both like him a lot, right? He's getting the attraction from both sides.
Yeah.
But then you have the other side where Muslims are saying this guy doesn't represent us. You know, he could potentially harm us.
I guess the right wing.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like we can definitely see a dichotomy, two sides. But I'd like to know what's the right position on him and how should we view him? Should we support him or not? What do you think?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, look, the issue is not, like, easily just deciphered. We just need to understand this.
It's also always funny to me, like, when Muslims are, like, speaking English and, like, shitting on, like, white people and Christians in our culture. Like, bro, do you realize that the language you're speaking right now is white culture? Like, you're in a white country speaking a language that comes from white people, and you're shitting on white people. Like, it's so funny to me.
As you can see, this brother is you said basically his surroundings not super Islamically focused, right? The most important thing is he serving the Muslim community or not? Irrespective of his belief, right? Like, we have a mayor. Doesn't matter who basically becomes the mayor of New York. Basically, is he going to protect the interests of the Muslims or not? Right? And to be honest, I want to be very frank. The Muslims they just need their basic rights in this country, right?
But should we go beyond basic rights? Like, should we be aspiring to really get deep into politics or having a lot of influence in the West?
Look, I'm going to be very controversial here, okay? I personally believe I'm aligned with the white supremacists on this one, the Islamophobes.
What?
I don't know. I was
Are you
just gonna
joking, or is
basically
that-
go, I'm serious.
Okay.
I think Muslims should go back home.
Based Muslim Sheikh. Let's go. Yes. Get the hell out of my country. Go back home. You have like 1 million countries to choose from, bro. Go back. You can go there and stone people, bro. Don't stone my people. We don't stone people here in America. Okay? We don't do that. Okay? We don't marry 9-year-olds. All right? We don't do that stuff. We don't marry our cousins here, okay? This is like, go do that. Go do that in Saudi Arabia. Go do that in Afghanistan, right? Get out of my country, bro. Put the stone down and get on the airplane, okay? He's absolutely right.
All right. All right.
I'm serious. Look, let me tell you something. Muslims don't necessarily need to be involved in politics in the West.
Okay.
Okay. Number one, they're seen by I don't know if it's majority or not, but a good sizable chunk of America and Europe and maybe Canada, that they don't want Muslims to come and basically impact their country or change some of the stuff about their country or become, let's say, political leaders in their country, right?
Okay.
Even if they don't change anything,
Okay.
they don't like it that basically Muslims become political leaders. I resonate with that from a perspective that, look, if our basic rights are safeguarded, and sadly they're not. If they were safeguarded, we don't have to really get involved in politics as much.
But isn't that just limiting us, like in
No.
the West? Meaning, like,
Well, it looks like it. Yeah, look, it is limiting. 100% say yeah, it is limiting. But let me explain. Like, what is our role as Muslims here in the West? There's two opinions between the Muslims on this, between the Muslim community leaders. The vast majority says that we're here. We need to impact America. We need to be part of America. We need to assimilate and integrate and be part of the social fabric of America and become powerful, just like maybe other minorities are powerful. We need to be powerful. And there's a minority, maybe I'm one of them, probably maybe the only voice basically that really is speaking like this, is that no, I think we should respect the majority. The majority doesn't feel, the majority doesn't want the Muslims to take these.
Exactly, bro. Like, you're coming to a culturally superior country, right? And then the majority of Muslims want to turn it into Saudi Arabia, bro. That's what they want to do. And so it's like, this dude at least acknowledges, right, that that's retarded and that they should respect the country they're coming to, right? The language they're speaking. They should respect that. That I agree. This mentality from a Muslim, dude, and then Myron basically has the same mentality. He basically thinks that like Muslims are guests in America. Like, that is the right mentality to have as a Muslim.
Important positions. They want these positions for themselves. Look, we just have to respect that this is their country. This is their home. Like, I'm not gonna go into other people's homes and then start basically saying, look, I'm gonna say what you're gonna do in your living room and your kitchen and you're just moving tables and chairs. I'm gonna come in like a nice guest. And
this dude is
respect
cooking right
the
now.
home of the host.
This dude is cooking. He's absolutely cooking.
That is inviting me to his house. We need to understand as Muslims, we have a home. And this is the problem. The problem is not necessarily like politics or not. Sometimes the act is halal, but see, there's repercussions to the act. Okay. Irrespective of being in mayor is halal or haram. Just put that aside for a second. Let's assume it's okay. I'm saying there's an impact. There's a strategic, problem here. Do we want to continue to live in America, Canada, and Europe for the next 300, 400 years, forever? Or should we go back home? Like,
Yeah, so this comment right here is a great point. If Western countries weren't superior, they wouldn't come here. Exactly. Like, these people complain about white Christians, and then they go to all the countries that are predominantly white and Christian. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Why are you here if you hate us this much? Ilhan Omar talking about how the biggest threat to America is white supremacy. It's white people. It's white men. That's what she says. You have a whole country you can go back to. It's called Somalia, Elon. It's got all of your people there. All your people live there. Go back. Go back. And why is that the worst thing? I still don't understand this. So these people come here, they wave their flag, they shit on America constantly, and then they complain when we send them back. You have these Indians now that are flipping out over some of the guidance that was recently put out by the administration on you have to go back before you can apply for permanent residency. You have to go back to your home country for those that are here temporarily. Well, you have all these Indians that are like crashing out over this. They're like, if I go back, I'm not going to be able to come back to America. And it's like, dude, why is the worst thing to happen to you? I don't understand. Why is the worst thing that could possibly happen to you for you to be surrounded by your own people? Someone make that make sense to me. By people exactly like you. So the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is you're surrounded by people exactly like you. Why is that so bad? Why is that racist? It makes no sense.
It's a real question that we have to wrestle with. And the Islamophobes who are in the populist movement, political movements in both Europe and America, are screaming for the last 10, 15 years, very loud and clear, that they don't want us there. So we should respect that and say, look, we're just your guests. And to be honest, we don't need to even be involved in politics. But as long as our rights are respected, this is where basically the issue is. So I'm not 100% aligned. I would like to be aligned fully with the Islamophobic.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's a joke, but at the end of the day, it's their stance. If both stances are equal, doesn't mean that basically I'm aligned in any way or shape with their views. But I'm just saying I respect. Look, if there's people who are not, let's say, if there's people who are not supremacist, they're just white Americans, and they're the majority. And they say, look, we want to keep America white. Okay, we want to keep America, let's say, liberal and a capitalistic nation. And Islam is contradictory to our values. And maybe they might say, look, if you guys want to stay
He's
here,
wrong about the liberal and the capitalist thing, but he's exactly right that most people, most people are liberal and capitalist in America. So I give him credit there. He's exactly right. He just said it. He just said they're not supremacist. These are just normal, average Joe Americans who don't want a freaking mosque in their backyard. Because this is America. That's not supremacy. It's not white supremacy. And so it's actually like big brain moment for this guy. Like extremely rare collector's item Muslim W from this guy.
as gas and just don't like try to change anything about our country, we're fine. And this is the position I take. That while the Muslimin are living in the West, we should respect those host countries. Never try to change anything about it as long as our basic rights are protected. Our rights are protected. And then also basically try to have a vision to go back home. We have a home. I don't care if you're fourth generation American.
I very much support this mentality. And by the way, look, like we got to own up to the fact that we contributed to the displacement of many of their homes. I agree with this. This is true. The U.S. has played a role in the displacement of a lot of these people. And so we need to own up to that. We have to fix that, to be frank. That's basically Middle Easterners in general, not just Muslims. So that's why Zog is so relevant to this topic.
Okay? I sometimes ask some Muslims, they say, where are you from? He's like, well, I'm from America.
I'm born and raised. Yeah.
Born and raised in America. I'm from like, let's say, Texas. I'm from Dallas. I'm like, yeah, but where are your parents from? Pakistan. I'm like, bro, just say it as it is. You're from Pakistan.
Yeah, and if there was a war between Pakistan and the United States, they would side with Pakistan. So no, you're not American. Listen, and I'm sorry if I got Eastern European brothers and sisters in here, Eastern or Southern European brothers and sisters in here, who answer this incorrectly. But it's the wrong answer. If you would side with Greece or Russia in a war against the United States, you're wrong. And to be honest, I don't think you're an American, to be frank, because you don't even have loyalty to the country you're living in, right? You have loyalty to a different country. So you got to pick. This is not an economic zone. This is my homeland. You have to choose. You have to choose where your loyalty lies. Welcome to members, Sayaba. Sorry if I butchered that. And just a reminder, I'm going to be doing a members only live stream at the end where I'm going to show you guys a quote from a saint on the topic of race and nations. So stay tuned for that. So if you want to be part of that, join up and my members. And then of course I'm going to go over super chats at the end as well. We still got a long way to go on this video and a lot of good content so far.
Okay, you look Pakistani, even though you might speak perfect English. And do you really want to stay in a country that your values? Look, the non-Muslims, the non-Muslim Americans understand that your values contradict their values.
Well, why? Why can't we just assimilate? Why can't we fit in? Why can't we make this our home?
Because then we have to lose our values. That's fine.
How?
Because
I
you have
can't
to
be a Muslim in America.
Exactly. This is what I've been saying, bro. This is what I've been saying. It's incompatible. You can't stone people for leaving Islam in America. You can't do it. So if that's your values, which it is, we just read it in the Hadith, you gotta go back. Put the stone down and get on the airplane.
No.
Why?
Well, not a Muslim in America. It's not like that. There's many Muslims in America. You can be Muslim American for sure.
Okay.
That's not the question. The issue is the issue of values.
Okay.
You want to sit here. Look, first of all, do they want you here in the first place? Number two, is the majority going to push you to lose your values?
Okay.
Meaning, 40 years from now, you're going to have great-grandchildren. Those will never be Muslim.
Why?
Because that's the reality of societies. The minorities will melt into the majority. That's how...
Like a melting pot?
Definitely. It's a sociological phenomena.
Okay.
That's how it works. The reason...
Yeah, and as subversive as the term melting pot is, that is what the term originally meant, right? It meant that you would show up and you would actually assimilate, right? You would be absorbed into the dominant culture. So, yeah.
Our communities have been thriving since the 1960s is because since the 1960s, the immigration started again and grew very fast. And since the Muslim countries in the world, which is we're 2 billion out of 8, we have the most youthful.
So he's saying that the 1960s, 1965 Hart-Celler Act. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've been trying to tell y'all, and I'm a racist for pointing it out. But here you go. Here's a sheik literally telling you straight up.
Population on Earth, immigration basically, we had lots of immigrants. And because of, sadly, the disasters in the Muslim world, many people immigrated. So we had a greater proportion than even 25%.
Okay.
Across the world, whatever it is.
Honestly, for me, I'm born and raised in Canada, okay? It doesn't seem like Islamophobia was too... I became an adult after a crisis in 9/11, and maybe my parents and the elders really took most of the hit. But then after, I grew up in an area where diversity in my school, and it seems like I didn't really see that part. So now I can understand how people... More recently, the Islamophobic, the anti-Muslim sentiment has grown. More recently.
It's true.
The far right may use people like Zohran Mamdani and his likes and make them their favorite piñata and just basically use them to fuel the anti-Muslim rhetoric. Yeah, exactly. The fear. So I can understand that, but at the same time,
anti-Muslim
you're
rhetoric?
talking to a lot of young people, a lot of Gen Zs, and
W
who
far
really
right?
feel like they were, they belong here. This is my home. Yes, my parents
It's
came.
not your home. That's the point. And you don't even treat it like your home, dude. Once again, you don't treat it that way. It'd be one thing if you actually did assimilate and if you admitted, if there was a war between Pakistan and America, I would side with America and I will respect the Christian values of this country, right? That's a very different... That's a type of migrant that is completely foreign to the vast majority of these Muslims.
From Lebanon, but
I agree. Look, let me tell you something. I was raised here myself.
Yeah.
And to be honest, basically, if you ask me where's home, from the emotional sense and from the familiarity, literally from emotional, psychological sense, this is my home. And I'm comfortable here, not in terms of life comfort. I like it here.
Yeah, the culture, the familiarity.
Yeah, subhanAllah, just the human connection, the attachment. There's attachment, right? But see, at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu created us for a purpose. The most important thing for us is not the emotional attachment to a geographic location. The most important thing is to live by the values that we believe in. Otherwise, what does our belief means? If we believe in Islam, but we don't really embody its values, we don't live in a society that embodies its values, then what's the use of Islam? Just the prayers and the fasting. And this is what we're against. What we're against is to reduce the great Islamic system of life that God have revealed to humanity for the sake of it, for the sake of human societies to live in peace and in justice, to just few rituals where Muslims can live in any non-Islamic society. No, I think if the Islamophobes have a problem with us, well, we should have had a problem with ourselves being here in the first place. Now, I'm not saying basically people should go just leave right now or whatever. We should have a nice,
No, you should leave right now. Please leave right this instant. You can stay. Look, if you convert to Christianity, I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. If you convert to Christianity, you can stay. All right. If you abandon your ridiculous religion that promotes child marriage, cousin marriage, and stoning of people who leave your religion, okay, great. Right? Then we could talk. We can talk. We can have a conversation about you maybe staying as a guest. Okay? But rest, you got to go right now. Right this instant.
Way to go back home, where also back home becomes equally, like, look, nobody's going to go back home to the Muslim world, right? And we should call it home all the time, whether we're born here or not, whether we're converts from here or not.
Yeah, because another point here that he made is, like, I don't have another home. I am ethnically American. I've talked about this many times on this show. And I'm going to keep reacting to that. But this is a very important point here, right? I am ethnically American. I don't speak German. I don't speak any Scandinavian language, right? I speak English in the American dialect, right? And I have undergone ethnogenesis here. I've completely adopted American culture. I have no ties to any other nation. This is my home. I have no other place to go. So that's why I have a right to defend my people, to remain the majority. Everybody who this is their home has that right. They have the right to do it in Saudi freaking Arabia and Afghanistan and wherever. They have the same right over there to remain the majority. Now, they can be Christianized because Christianity is the true faith, right? And Christianity obviously has positive impact on civilization. Look at Lebanon, right? In Lebanon, the cousin marriage is actually lower for the Christian population than it is for the Muslim population there. Because the church's teaching is against cousin marriage. Because guess what? It's against the created order, generally speaking, and it results in lower IQ, which results in higher crime rates, right? All these things are connected. They're prescribed by the triune God, right, in our Christian societies.
Home is back in the Muslim world. Even if you're blonde, blue-eyed convert, home is over there, not here.
That's an odd thing to say.
But this is what Allah says.
That's another great point. He just said that even if you're white, this is not your home. That's actually like an incredible point. The fact that he was able to identify that, right? And listen, for white converts to Islam, it's going to be a requirement. This is kind of a joke. This is kind of tongue in cheek. But you got to go live there for 5 years, bro. We're sending you. You got to go live in Afghanistan for 5 years. Okay. Then if you come back and you still want to be Muslim, okay, we'll let you be Muslim. All right. But you got to go over there for 5 years. Okay. Thank you for the super chats. And then maybe we'll talk about you coming back. Maybe we'll talk about you coming back after that. After you go experience what it's like to live in a Muslim country.
Come to replace culture, right? It came to filter, and you can still be an American Muslim, and you can be. So when you say we're watering it down, what are the values specifically that you're talking about that makes us attached to the East?
Well, let's take, for example, simple things. Pornography is rampant, right? Okay. Nakedness is everywhere. Haram relationships are everywhere.
But why can't we change these things?
But because it's not our society. This is why the Americans are getting angry.
See, those things do need to be changed, right? But Christianity has the framework. So even though Muslims get that right, like Christianity has been we've had the framework to be able to mitigate those things in the past, okay? And it was because of things like the sexual revolution, right? Where we allowed this subversion into our country. That has nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, it was guys like Theodore Adorno, right, who say that the nuclear family is fascism, right? That's literally what he said. So it's guys like that who have nothing to do with Christianity.
Muslims, because they want to change things. We need to stop trying to change their stuff, their place, their society, and just go change ours. The reason we left ours is because we don't like certain things about it. We don't like basically the political stability and security of those countries. We don't like the economic prosperity of those countries. We don't like the educational advancement, the scientific advancement of those countries. We don't like the business environment of these countries. We don't like the legal system of these countries. We don't like the crime rates of these countries. We don't like many things about these countries. We come here because we want to live in a higher quality of life society, and then we want to change it based upon our values. But well, they get offended. Like, I'm not trying to defend. Look, if white America, we're speaking really here about the right, okay? If they had the right ideology of life, they wouldn't be racist in the first place. They wouldn't basically care about whiteness in the first place. They would, but they don't have the.
That's dumb, because there's an emphasis on race in Islam, right? There's plenty of emphasis on race in Islam. In fact, I would argue Islam is significantly more racist. In fact, guess what? You guys enslaved based on race the black populations in Africa, and you castrated them. You treated them significantly worse. Your slave trade lasted for hundreds of years longer than the transatlantic slave trade. And it was the Christian societies that were able to identify this was a moral atrocity. And once again, those of you who don't know this, when the Europeans showed up to Africa, they had already been administering these slave auctions for literally 1,000 years. Slave auctions had been going on for 1,000 years when we showed up to Africa, right? And it wasn't until the Christians, like William Wilberforce, it wasn't until the Christians identified this was wrong, this was inhumane, and so, of course, we banned the transatlantic slave trade. The Muslims continued, so they started before and lasted after, right? This is the values that he's talking about, the values he wants to bring, right? And, oh, by the way, the English and the French went back to Africa to free all of the slaves from the African kings who refused to give up their slaves. It was the African kings that the white population had to go in and free. So I don't know what he's talking about with this example.
Viewpoint about life, right? We Muslims believe we have the right viewpoint about life, which is universal. We don't care about black or brown or white or Asian, whatever it is. We believe in the fact about what is the universe all about. The universe is a creation of God, and God has sent us.
I got to show you guys a hadith now because of what he just said. I wasn't planning on pulling this up, but I got to show you guys where Muhammad literally buys, I think he buys a non-black slave for the price of 2 black slaves, or vice versa. Hang on a second. Let me find it and I'll show you. This is another hadith. There's so many funny hadiths, bro. Here we go. So right here. So yeah, super. Islam is it's all sunshine and rainbows, guys. It's those mean Christians. A slave came and pledged to the prophet to emigrate, and the prophet did not realize that he was a slave. Then his master came looking for him. The prophet said, "Sell him to me," and he bought him for 2 black slaves. So he had 2 black slaves. The prophet himself, Muhammad, right, and he's trading them for this other slave who is probably a non-black slave. So. Guys. Look, the Islam is actually it's for everyone, and we don't see race. It's just a love. It's just a religion about loving everybody. That's all it is. Yeah, clearly, that's what it is. So don't let them gaslight you, bro. Don't let them gaslight you. Sahih is a Sahih hadith. Don't let them gaslight you. Okay, this is their prophet, right? And this is another thing I like to challenge these Muslims on. It's like, look, could you live, right, a Muslim, could you emulate, right, your prophet's lifestyle in the West, right? Could you go on literally like war campaigns? Could you buy and sell black slaves, right? Could you stone people to death for leaving Islam? Could you marry a 9-year-old? Could you emulate your own prophet's life in the West? No? Okay, then leave. Either leave Islam or leave, because it's clearly incompatible. Clearly incompatible.
Revelation that structures the whole society in all of its aspects, political, economical, financial, and social. So humanity can live in peace just like the atoms live within the systems of physics that God created.
Yeah, in order. Yeah, and
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So we believe in that. Why are we coming here to change their values? They don't appreciate that. And this is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying Islam told us not to try to change these societies. We as Muslims, we have a home. It's the Muslim world. Our people are the Muslims back over there. This is what we should be changing, not leave our homeland and our own people in a big mess and go try to change other people's lifestyles. That's not what God has said.
This is another thing I don't understand is people who, like, why wouldn't you want to make your own country great? Like, if I was Indian, I've made this point many times. If I was Indian, right, I would want to make India great. I wouldn't want to run off to another country to try to make it great, right? Especially if my country was in shambles. It'd be one thing if, like, my country was in a good spot and I wanted to, like, bring civilization. That's basically what colonization was, right? They were, like, bringing civilization to these other peoples, right? That's good. But, like, why would you leave? Why would you abandon ship on your own homeland? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I don't have any respect for these people that will say, I'm moving to Serbia or I'm moving to, Eastern Europe to get away from all the modernism in America. It's like, bro, like, this is your home. What do you mean you're leaving? Like, we need to fight. We need to fight for our own land, right? I don't mean like violence. I mean, I'm just talking about like fighting, like cultural revolution. Like, that's what we need. That's the mentality you should have about your home.
So I need you to
and you could ask me, like, what's the dalil for that? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَأَنذِرْ الْقُرَى وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا.
Okay.
Warn Mecca and the surroundings of Mecca. Surroundings of Mecca means the Arabian Peninsula.
Okay.
The Rasul sallallahu was not ordered by God to go to the Romans and go to the Persians, go to the Abyssinians and preach and find the place where Islam gets established. No. He instructed the Rasul to only stay in the Arabian Peninsula.
To start with his own people.
And start with his own people to establish Islam within his own people.
So even when he went to Medina, I guess they were Arabs as well.
Arabs.
Okay.
The Arabian Peninsula, that's why Mecca and its surrounding. So today, we're saying the same order stays. It's just now, who's our people? The Muslims. What's our land? The Muslim world.
Is this like how the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca then and went to, because
this is, and guys, this is, again, I'm going to keep reacting, but this is why the birth rates thing is actually not as relevant as people make it out to be. Because look, if these people go back to the Middle East and they just have a bunch of babies, I don't really care. Like, I don't care. Like, we don't need, we were a superpower at 100 million. We were a superpower at 200 million, right? The only reason why the birth rates are a problem is because we don't have remigration. That's the reason why birth rates are a problem. Okay, we can stabilize with a Christianized society. We can stabilize at a certain mark. Birth rates don't need to constantly go up. We can stay at 200, 250 million in America and be perfectly fine. And the Middle East can have the Middle East and India, they could just explode with babies if that's what they want to do.
Mecca was his home, right?
Yes. Like that's from like the individualistic home, right? The home of the individual is Mecca for the Rasul. He was attached to it. Actually, when he did Hijrah, he actually cried. He's leaving the home that he lived in all his life. Wasn't easy, but he had to. Why did he do Hijrah? Because now the Yathribite society, the Madani society, now adopted the Islamic values at a social level, at a societal level. So now basically the whole city, which is equivalent to a country today, is running based upon the Islamic values. That's why he immigrated, because now that fits his belief system as an individual.
Yeah.
So let's look, if we have a communist in America, that person would basically be, dreaming about going to China. If we have a capitalist in China, that person would be dreaming of going to America.
Okay.
If we have a Muslim in America, that person should, if he's a real believer, should be dreaming about going to a society that has Islam. Now I understand the Muslim.
Why does this even need to be said? Why does this even need to be said? If you have a particular culture and a particular ideology, you want to be around people like you. Like, that's like common sense. And if it has to be said, clearly there's something wrong with whatever you're fostering, right? Why do Muslims have to be told, right? Why do Muslims have to be told to go back to their countries? Shouldn't they want to be in their homeland? Shouldn't they want to be around other Muslims? Why do they want to be around white Christians? Ask yourself that. Why is that? Why does it have to be incentivized to get them to be literally around people like themselves? Why should that even be incentivized?
World does not really have Islam, but that's where we need to basically push a little bit and start creating more awareness and support our brothers and sisters back home to cultivate more Islam in the Muslim world, so we can feel comfortable to go back. Right?
Yeah.
Because see, if we're gonna keep it like few people sacrificing, there's 55 million Muslims in the West. But that's why basically people are screaming. They're lying. Sadly, the Islamophobes are like, yo, bro, these guys are becoming like, they're gonna get to 100 million soon.
Yeah.
55 million is a big number. Like, how big is the West? Like 450 million in Europe and 350 million, let's say, in Canada, US. Let's say 400. From 850 million, you have 55 million. That's a big number. And by the way, the projections are, they look at the projection, they start their hair starts falling.
Yeah.
But again, so that's why the real Muslims who understand the world and politics and strategy and the Quran and the Sunnah will always tell you, look, Muslims should live in an Islamic environment.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to be here to live forever. Alhamdulillah, we came here. Many of us basically escaped civil wars or failed states, or even just like actual wars and genocides and so forth. So alhamdulillah, God gave us the blessings. We came here, we raised our kids, we went to universities, we got jobs. But it's time for us not to forget our homeland. And it's time for us to not be comfortable and that's why maybe partly the phenomena of the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that, our comfort now is coming to bite us. Because we are not turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're turning to the dunya.
Yeah, I think one thing that you said earlier is very powerful, and it's probably the main reason why most of us cannot imagine our home being.
Welcome to the memberships, Nathan. Like I said, going to go over, are going to be doing a members only stream at the end of the stream, so please stick around. I had a lot of new members this stream, so please stick around to the end because I'm going to be doing a members only stream, and particularly, I am going to be showing you guys some Saints quotes that you have not seen before, and that I'm only going to show on my members only streams. So, and then I'm also everyone that's tuned in, I'll follow you guys all back on social media and things of that nature. So definitely stay around back. We're gonna keep react to this for a little bit longer. I don't think I'm gonna watch the whole thing, because I do want to get to a few things on the founding fathers of America. Although I'm going to do like a whole episode on the Christian founding of America, because I really don't think I can do it justice in this episode.
Back home, right? And it's because you've placed Islam on the same arena as capitalism and socialism. Like we don't really see it that way. We don't see Islam as comparing to these systems. We see it as just like a religion, obviously, that we practice at home, and everyone can practice different religions but live in a different system.
Exactly.
So that's very interesting. That's very powerful. Now, I'm wondering, actually, where do the Muslims from, like, in the Sirah, the Muslims that were in Abyssinia, what was the role of them being there? Because would you say that's like comparing us here?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah?
It is 100%. There is no debate about this. Anybody who debates this, subhanAllah, may Allah forgive them. Today, we are like the Muslims in Abyssinia. The Muslims in Abyssinia never tried to change anything about Abyssinian society.
Is there proof for that?
Yeah, but the Sirah, the whole history.
So there is nothing that came out of there. Oh, it's interesting.
They didn't even try to even preach at a wide scale. Not really. They stayed within themselves as a minority. Alhamdulillah, the ruler of Abyssinia was a just ruler, so he allowed them to basically have their religious rights, and they lived like that until they...
All right, I think it's a lot of waffling, so we're going to move on to Founding Fathers, because I have a few quotes that I want to go over with you guys on that topic. And so you guys kind of get the idea, though, that, hey, there's even like a sentiment here in like the Muslim community that is showing this sentiment that, like, look, they don't belong here, right? So So yeah, that being said, I want to show you guys a few quotes. I'm gonna do a full breakdown, right, of how America was founded as a Christian nation. You guys will often hear from Muslims the Treaty of Tripoli that's cited that says America was not founded on the basis of the Christian religion, but the context of that treaty at the tail end of the 18th century was basically these North African pirates kept attacking our ships. And so the founding fathers basically they just pissed off the Great Britain, right? They just pissed off, the world superpower. So they're also looking for allies, in the Arab world. They don't want to pick a fight with these guys. So they're basically saying in this document, hey, we're not a crusader state, right? And actually the document ends up getting replaced in I think 1805 under Jefferson. The document actually gets replaced, and the whole clause, Article 11 or 13, no, Article 11, that's where it's at, ends up getting removed from it. So you guys will hear the Treaty of Tripoli cited, and it's just like a terrible justification for why Christianity is not the reason America was founded, because you can see from the and this is what I'll go over in detail. I'll go over in detail on a separate episode the actual founding fathers and how they viewed Christianity, and particularly the state constitutions. We'll actually walk through some of the state constitutions because I want to show you guys that stuff. So if a Muslim ever cites the Treaty of Tripoli, just obviously ridiculous. So there's a quote here by a early 19th century, so 1800s Supreme Court justice by the name of Joseph Story, and he had commentary on the First Amendment. And this to me is very, very indicative sort of the sentiment at the time. And so I want to read you guys this. So so this is basically the sentiment really of the early founding fathers. In his commentary on the First Amendment, the real object of the amendment was not to countenance, much less advance Islam, right? This is what they called Islam, or Judaism. Wait a minute. I thought America was founded as it was a Jewish subversive founding from the beginning. Well, wait a minute. Well, then why is the Supreme Court justice saying this explicitly? It wasn't to advance Islam or Judaism. Or infidelity, secularism. So it's not secular, it's not Jewish, and it's not Muslim. What is it? By prostrating Christianity, but to exclude all rivalry among Christian sects, and to prevent any national ecclesiastical establishment, which should give a hierarchy to the exclusive patronage of the national government. Wait a second. So this Supreme Court justice in the early 1800s is saying the religious freedom in America was to avoid competing claims to Christianity. Has nothing to do with Islam, has nothing to do with Judaism, it has nothing to do with secularism. It was about different forms of Christianity, what they saw as forms of Christianity. That was the point of the First Amendment. That was the point. So, no, America was not founded on Judeo-Christian values, clearly. There was an actual Supreme Court case in 1799 that explicitly expressed very similar sentiments. And by the way, again, it's just so stupid to possibly insinuate that the Treaty of Tripoli was really talking about Christianity is literally not the religion in America. That's clearly not what it was saying. Because this Supreme Court case in 1799, they explicitly said, by our form of government, the Christian religion is the established religion, and all sects and denominations of Christians are placed upon equal footing and are equally entitled to protection of their religious liberty. Once again, religious freedom religious liberty was about different forms of Christianity. That was what it was about. And Actually, someone said that's Protestant Masonic liberalism. That's also false, because the vast majority of the signers of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were not Masons. And they were confessional Protestant Christians. The vast majority. Now, some of the Masons were propped up, and I think that was some of the subversion. So that's why you have, of course, Masonic influence. But the vast majority of the founding fathers who signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were not Masons. They were confessional Christians that were not Masons. Welcome to memberships. I don't know how to say your name, but welcome to memberships, and hopefully you tune in to the members-only stream at the end here. There's one last part of this. Literally, so 100 years later, United States Supreme Court affirmed the same principle in the Church of the Holy Trinity versus the United States. Supreme Court said, no purpose of action against religion can be imputed any legislation, state or national, because this is a religious people. What? This is a Christian nation. Wait a minute. Wait a second. But these Muslims were trying to tell me that the Treaty of Tripoli says it's not a Christian nation. So why is the Supreme Court on multiple occasions saying it is a Christian nation? Why are Supreme Court justices saying that the First Amendment was actually about religious liberty between Christian forms? Does that make any sense? Are those reconcilable? So the Muslims will like cherry pick, right? They'll cherry pick these things, and they're clearly wrong. They're clearly off base. All right. Thank you for all the new members, and I did get a couple super chats, so I will go over those real quick here before we dive into my members-only stream. I don't think I have anything else. Yeah, I'll go over stuff like the Naturalization Act of 1790. So just real briefly for you guys, I will go into this stuff in detail at some point on another date. This is awesome. So this guy who just signed up for members said he picked up For My Legionaries, has been breezing through it. Book is amazing, and Coach Around is such inspiration. Amen. Amen. I lost my train of thought. I'll just go through the super chats. Oh yeah, sorry. Naturalization Act of 1790, 1795. Every single naturalization/immigration act until 1965 reinforced a European and Christian majority, right? That was what every single act reinforced up until 1965. That was when it changed. So, got our the troll here. Sorry, the Mets lost. So it's at this point, I don't even know if I should just like play into this joke at this point. So I guess go Mets. Go Mets. I'm just going to start rooting for the Mets, even though I don't care about baseball, because I don't know what else to do. But thank you for the super chat. All right, this is a good question here. Thank you for the super chat. John, how do you approach/perceive patriotism with regards to Americanism being heretical and condemned by the church, along with America's Protestant roots? So, okay. Yeah, 1965 was absolutely a mistake. So this is a good question because I get this a lot. So the Founding Fathers founded the nation as a Christian nation, and then like we just saw, they didn't want to make any one denomination, which they considered Orthodox to be one of them. I'll demonstrate that in a second. They didn't want to make any denomination the actual like state-mandated religion. Why? Because they just came from England, right, where Anglicanism was persecuting these other denominations. So they had Anglicans in America. They had, Reformed circles in America. They had Catholics in America. They had Orthodox in America. But they didn't want to make any one of them the state-mandated religion because of what they just experienced in England, right? So they founded as a Christian nation, of which they considered Orthodoxy to be a valid expression. Let me demonstrate that. So Philip Ludwell III was a Virginian government official who played a role in appointing George Washington to colonel. He was an Orthodox Christian. He converted to Orthodoxy from Anglicanism. Then you had John Paradise. John Paradise was a tutor of Thomas Jefferson. A tutor of Thomas Jefferson. Sorry, I'm laughing at the chat here. A tutor of Thomas Jefferson for the language of Greek. He was the first ever naturalized citizen in America, John Paradise, and he was Greek Orthodox. 1,400 Greek Orthodox Christians were in St. Augustine, Florida in 1768. So the first ever American city was St. Augustine, Florida. It's where there's an Orthodox shrine there, a Greek Orthodox shrine. You can go and look at it yourself. And in St. Augustine, there was 1,400 Greek Orthodox Christians there in 1768, before the founding of the United States. Then, in Alaska, there was also presence in Alaska before the founding of the United States, and when Alaska got absorbed into America, 1/3 of its population was Orthodox. So basically, here's my argument, right? I'm not saying that America is an Orthodox nation. Of course not. What I am saying is that the Founding Fathers founded America as a Christian nation, of which they considered Orthodox to be a valid expression of, okay? So, in other words, Orthodoxy is not contrary to America's founding. In fact, Orthodoxy is very much aligned with a lot of the fundamental principles of America. I'm not saying that, look, there's a lot of things we got to ditch. We got to ditch the rebellious spirit of America. Okay, that's got to go. The rebellious spirit has got to go. You can't have a rebellious spirit in the church. Okay? That doesn't work with Orthodoxy. That's got to go. But there's aspects like all of the fabric, even though it's Protestant Christianity, there's a whole fabric, right? Family values, right? Community, loyalty to your community, love for your nation, right? These are all things that are very Orthodox. And they need to be submitted to Christ. They need to be submitted to the Orthodox faith, right? But they are compatible with Orthodoxy. Look, when nations, pagan nations, Orthodox nations that were once pagan, they would still maintain the cultural aspects that were there when the nation was pagan. The things that were compatible with Orthodoxy, they preserved. They baptized, they Christianized them, right? So they still preserve these cultural aspects. Gosh, if a pagan nation can do that, so can America, dude. So can a Protestant nation. Absolutely we can. So, this is our resident Indian here. Thank you for your the Indian tax. Thank you for the super chat, brother. All right. So now I'm going to move on to members only live stream, because I got some stuff for you. So in 1 minute, we're moving to members only, because I have a Saints quote on race and nations that I want to show you guys, and I want to give you guys the exclusive content of being a member. So if you sign up to be a member, you'll have access to this stream. All right, so in 1 minute, it's going to switch to members only. So if you want to be a member and join us on this stream, come on over. And thank you to all my new members. I'll also follow you back on social media so we can DM if you have any questions about Orthodoxy, about my position. And if you are interested in my debate notes, I will send you my debate notes if you're interested in that. So let's see. Hopefully this works fine. We're about to find out. But yeah, other than that, for everybody else, thank you for tuning in. I will be back live on Thursday. Right now, the plan is to go live with Fearless Truth in the afternoon. It'll still be streamed on my platform. So you can tune in on Thursday for a live stream there. Follow me at Real Ben Michael on Twitter and Instagram, and please like and subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in.